If you've ever seen a runner carrying a deep purple-red drink that looks more like a smoothie experiment than a serious performance beverage, there's a good chance it was beet juice. It has quietly become one of the most studied natural pre-workout options in sports science, and unlike a lot of supplement trends, it's actually built on a mechanism that holds up under research. But does drinking beet juice before a workout really translate into better performance? Or is this just another trend riding on a handful of promising studies? Let's break down what beet juice actually does in your body, what the research shows, and exactly how to use it if you decide to give it a try. Beets are naturally rich in inorganic nitrates. Your body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide through a pathway that involves bacteria in your mouth and stomach. Nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that relaxes and widens blood vessels, a process called vasodilation, and that single mechanism is behind essentially every claimed benefit of beet juice for exercise. Beet juice also contains potassium, folate, vitamin C, and betalains, the pigments responsible for that deep red color, which have some antioxidant properties of their own. But nitrate content is what the performance research is really built around. And it's also why beet juice specifically, rather than eating beets in general, has become the preferred way to use this, since juicing concentrates the nitrate dose into a small, practical volume. Once those nitrates convert into nitric oxide, the resulting vasodilation increases blood flow and oxygen delivery to your working muscles. Research has connected this to a reduced oxygen cost of exercise, meaning your body can sustain a given intensity while using less oxygen than it normally would. For endurance activities, that's a real efficiency gain. Nitric oxide is also linked to improved mitochondrial efficiency and better calcium handling inside muscle cells, both of which affect how well your muscles contract and how well they resist fatigue during sustained effort. Put simply, the theory is that beet juice helps your muscles do more work for the same metabolic cost, rather than directly supplying energy the way a carb-based pre-workout would. So what does the actual research show? The strongest and most consistent evidence sits in aerobic endurance performance. Multiple studies have found that nitrate supplementation reduces the oxygen cost of submaximal exercise and can improve time to exhaustion and time trial performance in running and cycling. A review of beetroot juice in trained soccer players found it improved high-intensity, intermittent exercise performance, the repeated sprint and recover pattern common in field sports. After just 6 days of consistent intake, the picture gets more nuanced for strength and power training. Some research suggests beetroot juice can improve muscular strength output in professional athletes, while the aerobic endurance benefits look more consistent in recreationally active or untrained people. That population-specific pattern matters because who benefits most may depend heavily on training background and the type of exercise involved. An umbrella review pulling together data across professional athletes and healthy individuals found generally positive but inconsistent effects on physical performance overall, which is probably the fairest summary. Beet juice isn't a guaranteed performance booster for everyone in every context, but the mechanism is well established, and the endurance-specific evidence, especially for submaximal, sustained efforts, is genuinely solid. Beets aren't the only nitrate-rich food out there. Leafy greens like arugula, spinach, and celery are also high in dietary nitrates, and arugula in particular has one of the highest nitrate concentrations of any common vegetable, sometimes higher per serving than beets themselves. So why has beet juice become the default? Mostly practicality. It has a naturally sweeter, more palatable flavor than a concentrated green juice. It's easier to standardize into a consistent commercial product, and it's the form most of the foundational research has actually been built around, which means dosage recommendations are simply better established for beet juice specifically. Beet juice is sometimes stacked with other supplements. Pairing it with caffeine is common since the two work through largely separate mechanisms: caffeine through central nervous system stimulation, beet juice through blood flow and oxygen cost. If you're already taking a multi-ingredient pre-workout that includes nitrate-boosting compounds, adding a full dose of beet juice on top may give you diminishing returns for most people. The simplest approach is treating beet juice as a standalone addition rather than trying to precisely stack it with several other ingredients at once. Most of the attention on beet juice focuses on performance before a workout, but there's a reasonable case for its role afterward too. The improved blood flow that helps deliver oxygen during exercise may also support nutrient and oxygen delivery during recovery when your muscles are repairing and refilling energy stores. Beet juice's antioxidant content has also been studied for reducing exercise-induced inflammation. And some studies have found reduced muscle soreness and faster recovery of muscle function in the days following intense training when beet juice was part of a recovery routine. Because individual response varies, it's worth tracking your own results instead of assuming beet juice will work exactly like the average study outcome. The most direct way is comparing performance on a repeatable benchmark, a set time trial, or a fixed pace run with and without beet juice beforehand. Perceived exertion is worth tracking too, since some people notice a given pace feels easier before it even shows up as a measurable time improvement. And here's something easy to overlook. Since the nitrate to nitric oxide pathway depends on oral bacteria, using antibacterial mouthwash regularly can blunt your results without you realizing why it's not working. Timing matters more with beet juice than with a lot of other pre-workout options because nitrate conversion isn't instant. Research shows it takes roughly 2 hours for blood nitrate levels to reach their peak after drinking beet juice, staying elevated for several hours before gradually dropping. That means drinking it 2 to 3 hours before exercise is the practical sweet spot. Drinking it right before a workout largely misses that window. Some athletes take a different approach entirely, drinking beet juice daily for 3 or more days leading into an important training block, which research suggests can produce benefits comparable to or even better than a single dose beforehand. As for dosage, most of the performance research lands around 300 to 500 milligrams of nitrate, which typically works out to about 170 milliliter concentrated beet juice shot, or a larger 250 to 500 milliliter serving of standard beet juice, depending on concentration. Checking the nitrate content on a product label is the most reliable way to hit an effective dose consistently. Whole beets deliver the same nitrates as beet juice, along with fiber and a bigger overall nutrient package, but reaching an effective dose means eating an amount that's just not practical before a workout. Beet juice concentrates that dose into something small and fast absorbing, which is why it's become the standard in both research and practice. Beet powder mixed into water is a shelf-stable alternative that travels easily, though quality and nitrate content vary more between brands. Whatever form you choose, checking for an actual listed nitrate content matters more than relying on serving size alone. So who benefits most? Endurance athletes and recreationally active people doing sustained aerobic work, running, cycling, rowing, swimming, tend to see the most consistent benefit, especially for efforts lasting several minutes or longer. Team sport athletes doing repeated high-intensity bursts with short recovery also show promising results. People newer to structured training sometimes see larger relative improvements than highly trained athletes, simply because there's more room for an efficiency boost to show up. Pure strength and power athletes training with heavy, low-rep work are the group where the evidence is least compelling. Beet juice is generally well tolerated, but a few things are worth knowing. Bituria, a harmless reddish tint to urine, is common and nothing to worry about. Some people get mild digestive discomfort, especially starting with a larger serving than they're used to, because beet juice lowers blood pressure through vasodilation. Anyone already on blood pressure medication should talk to a doctor before adding regular beet juice. And the same caution applies if you have a history of kidney stones, since beets are relatively high in oxalates. If you'd rather make your own instead of buying commercial shots, a basic approach uses to 2 to 3 medium raw beets, peeled and chopped, run through a juicer along with an apple or a squeeze of lemon to balance the earthy flavor. A blender works too. Just strain the mixture through a fine mesh strainer afterward. Homemade juice won't have a labeled nitrate content, which makes dosing less precise, but it's a reasonable, low-cost way to test whether beet juice works for you. If you do buy one, look specifically for a stated nitrate content in milligrams, not just serving size, and watch for added sugar in flavored blends marketed more for general nutrition than performance. Give it a genuine multi-session trial, at least for 2-6 workouts with the timing and dose reasonably controlled, before deciding whether it's making a real difference for you. A single try, especially without accounting for that 2 to 3 hour timing window, isn't a fair test. For most healthy adults, daily beet juice at typical performance doses appears safe, and some of the strongest research protocols actually use a multi-day loading approach rather than a single dose. Bottom line, beet juice has a genuinely well-supported mechanism behind it. Dietary nitrates convert to nitric oxide, improving blood flow and reducing the oxygen cost of sustained exercise. The evidence is strongest for aerobic endurance and repeated high-intensity efforts. Time to 2-3 hours before exercise at a dose of roughly 300 to 500 milligrams of nitrate and less compelling for pure maximal strength work. It's not a magic performance enhancer, and results vary by individual. But for endurance-focused training, beet juice is one of the more evidence-backed natural options worth trying.